Welcome to Chalk Talk, the podcast where we dive deep into the topics that matter most to family-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, and anyone navigating the complex world of business leadership. I'm Tiffani Carter. Rory, Sheppard, and I are here excited to bring you insight, strategies, and discussions that reflect the very essence of what we do here at ActionCOACH of West Texas. So, Rory, today we decided to talk about meetings. And some of us feel like we have death by meetings.
Yeah.
Right? Very popular book out there.
Yes.
Meetings are important. So why do so many people dislike meetings?
Well, let me count the ways. In most cases, I'm not sure why I'm attending the meeting. I'm not sure what we're supposed to accomplish while I'm here. When we get to the end, it's because we ran out of time, not because we accomplished what we needed to accomplish. And then it always seems like I've got to schedule a follow-up meeting to cover the exact same topic. Those are the general ones. Sometimes it could be that it's poorly facilitated, or it could be that not everybody's paying attention, or that there seem to be 5 conversations going on in the room instead of one. Man, there could be just so many reasons why meetings are dysfunctional, and why Patrick Lencioni in his book, Death by Meeting, says, it's an issue that's plaguing not just corporate America, but it plagues us across the board, whether it's in a nonprofit space, it's at our church, right? We go to meetings and we just would rather poke our eyes out than hang out in there. And then we have to come back again next week or next month and do the same thing over.
Right. Absolutely. So now let's start at the beginning. We could go a lot of different directions here today. Let's start at the beginning. If I'm going to plan a meeting, how can I make that meeting better?
Yeah, so it starts with preparation for the meeting. And I think that's a fantastic place to start. And that's, so there are a few techniques that you can do, but first it's what is the agenda? And then what do you want to accomplish? And a tip would be have that outcome be a noun. So what do I want at the end of this? It's not that I want to have a conversation about, right? It's I want a plan at the end of this. I want an agenda at the end of this. What is it that I want to have that I can hold that's tangible and visible at the end of that meeting? And so if I can define that and put it in the sense of a noun, and then say, here's the objective, here's the agenda, and then I can look at that and say, and then who needs to be there? So often we invite 5 extra people or 7 extra people because we think, well, we may need them because we're not sure what we're going to talk about. If I say, this is the outcome that I want, here's the agenda I'm going to follow, then setting the attendees is a lot easier and can be, there are people that we think are going to be offended if we don't include them in the meeting, when in fact they're offended that they have to attend. And so I think the more clear you are, the clearer that objective is and what I want to achieve, the better you've got foundationally for the meeting to happen.
I love it. And I love the idea of like make that outcome be a noun. That really visually feels good, right? That's a great tip for that. You talked about who needs to be in the meeting. Mm-hmm. Can you go a little bit further into that? I think you hit on something with, we do think we're going to offend people.
Right.
And most people are offended that they actually have to attend. So how would you recommend determining who needs to be in that meeting?
So the easiest way is to start with the shortest list possible, right? Mm-hmm. Think of it as a one-on-one conversation. You and I, so we're the two that have to be in the meeting. But then what's that next ring out of people that don't need to be informed, but actually need to be there to be consulted or have input into that topic? And when we can talk about what do I do after the meeting, but if I do a great job of taking notes and providing minutes out of the meeting, then that I was about to put on the invite to spend an hour with us can read in 5 minutes what the discussion was, what the outcomes were, what the next steps are. And then if they have questions, they can ask. But they can get that in 5 minutes as opposed to 55. And so, and if you get into the spot where I don't have the right person in the meeting, then heaven forbid, we could just call it right there and say, we need to we spent 10 minutes. We realized that Tiffani needed to be in here. Had no idea this is where it was going to go. Let's stop, schedule the next meeting, get her in, and move forward from there. But so often we're afraid to not count you, and so we don't. So we put you on the invite just in case.
Yeah, that's great. So then let's go. We're in the meeting. Right. Let's talk about facilitation of the meeting. Do you have any tips or don't do's on facilitation of a meeting?
So the tip would be the more clear and direct you are with the objective and the agenda, the better off you are. And then have an agreement up front. What are the rules of engagement as we're going into the meeting? We're not going to have side conversations. We're not going to be on our phones. We actually want to be done in 20. Yes, we scheduled 50 minutes or 55 minutes, but we want to be done in 27 if we can.
Right.
When we've said we've accomplished the outcome that we intended, let's get out of here. So often, nature abhors a vacuum. And so if we set an hour and a half for the meeting, somehow it goes an hour and a half long. And I would say the better you are at staying on task, going through the agenda, and when you get to the end, you're at the end and you leave, everybody feels better about attending your meetings when you facilitate them in that way.
I love that. And just staying on topic and saying, right, that glad you brought that up, right? Doesn't need to be discussed in this meeting, right? We're going to table that. We'll push it to the next one. Or, hey, like you two, this is one thing you've been really great at is saying, hey, that's something that the two of you only need to get on. So, right, you can do a sidebar after the meeting or you can have your own meeting. But that way we're not wasting everyone else's time. I mean, you and I both and everybody watching this could tell tales about how many times that's taken over a meeting.
Yeah. And so you end up seeing a one-on-one conversation for 20 minutes in a meeting that's got 20 people in it.
Right.
How frustrating is that? So
that is so frustrating.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then I would just, as we're, back to what happens after the meeting, that again, kind of the rules of the game, or in my facilitation of that meeting, I'm going to say, I'm going to send a recap. You'll have minutes from the meeting by this time. Another piece of that is in the meeting saying who owns that activity and what is the due date, so that I'm capturing that in the minutes and saying these are the things that we agreed that we were going to do and by when. And then if there needs to be another meeting or a follow-up meeting, trying to schedule that in the meeting. Sometimes it gets really crazy, but if you can do it in the meeting, you're better off while everybody's there, has their calendars, and you can say, what does Tuesday the 16th look like? Okay, great. Let's use that date. And so,
right.
But I think we all have probably scars, and maybe some of us have nightmares about meetings that we hated. But, at least I have fond memories of some of the meetings that I really looked forward to on a regular basis. And that was because they were executed in an excellent way. And I knew that every time I went, I was going to get value and I was going to be able to give value. And those were the meetings that I enjoyed doing. And so I think you've got an opportunity as a business leader to run meetings in a new and unique way that delivers value. If you take just those three simple steps of how do I prepare for the meeting before I get there? The more explicit I am on the outcomes that I want to achieve, the better off I am. I'm inviting the right people to the meeting and then facilitating in that in an excellent way. And then I owe, post-meeting kind of follow-up and feedback outside of that. You'll run a great meeting.
I love it. Great information on how we can get even better with our meetings and not have death by meetings. Fantastic. Thank you all for joining us on Chalk Talk, and we'll see you next week. I will say, if you have a subject that you would like for us to cover, right, send that in to us, hit us up on the website, message us on social media. We would love to cover topics that you guys send to us.